poverty in the Ottumwa area. From this beginning, Ottumwa's Lord's Cupboard was started. At first, it only involved the Methodist churches, but other churches became interested and wanted to join in the effort. At that time, the name was changed to the Ecumenical Lord's Cupboard. It's all denominations that are involved. That's what's so amazing about it, is all the different faith service that we get to be involved with. I think something that has really touched me, I've taken a lot of Bible studies through the years, and I'd encourage you, if you aren't involved in one, you begin one. But this year, as we've taken some Bible studies, it's like, okay, I need to take this and do something with it. Those women just amaze me. You know, they went, they did a Bible study, and they came home and said, you know what, we're going to do that. And I think that's really a wonderful thing. Who are we today? We are a nonprofit organization who follows the commission from Jesus as the Gospel of Matthew tells the story of feeding the 5,000. Our mission is of helping to meet the emergency food needs of our community. This ministry we do to the glory of God. We are a corporation. We follow bylaws that have been set up and revised through the years. We are governed by a board of directors and staffed by a volunteer staff of 12. How do we survive? The grace of God helps us survive every single week. When the cupboard was first organized, there were 23 churches that wished to be involved in this work. Today, 8 of those churches remain actively supporting us. We rely on several individuals who are gracious in their funding. I learned to write grants this year. I've never done that. They've never gotten them. That was a new thing. They said, can you write grants? I don't know. There are people in those places that will help you. I was fortunate to receive a Legacy Foundation grant that helped us with purchasing food, a grant from the United Way, which has helped us with our rent, and lastly, the Wapello County Foundation gave us a grant, and we're going to go purchase a new refrigerator/freezer on Tuesday so that we have more space to hold perishable items. We have a few large companies that are generous. A few of them, Ideal Ready Mix, Vermeer, Edward Jones, Ottumwa Regional Health Center. There are lots of places that do food drives for us. Legacy Youth Group did one. Evans Middle School, I had a chance of meeting last Christmas vacation a young man by the name of Ben Chance, and he got it started, and they did a phenomenal food drive for us. City of Agency did one for me. Menards did one. Pennsylvania Place has just completed one. There are lots of groups that we have. Vacation Bible schools sometimes do donations and food drives for us. Lots of places do that. We also do 5 food drives per year. And if you are an Indian Hills fan, this coming Saturday, they are doing a food drive for us. If you bring a non-perishable food item, you get $3 off your ticket. That's just my only plug for the day. So I've not been involved with that, but we're looking forward to it. Where does our food come from? We get weekly donations from Walmart. We couldn't survive without their donating heart. I order from local grocery stores, and I order from the Food Bank of Iowa if they have items that we use. They struggle financially just like we do, so they don't always have the things maybe I want. We do what we can. Several of our churches do food drives throughout the year. I mentioned a VBS did one for us. Individuals continue. If you just have that extra stuff on your shelf that you haven't used and you clean your cupboards out, folks bring us that, and that's awesome. We had produce this year from Grace Church and the United Way Community Gardens. I'm a gardener myself, so I know the work that goes into producing and harvesting a garden. And the women that were involved with these 2 gardens worked so hard and brought us so many items. And the look on faces when they can go and they have fresh green beans and tomatoes and onions, and It's something you will never forget. The gardens were a blessing. Rules and regulations, as with any organization, even though it's nonprofit, we have rules and regulations. Since we order from the Food Bank of Iowa, we follow the guidelines that they have in place. They work with the Department of Health and Human Services, which taps into the USDA, that taps into the federal government, and those rules and regulations trickle down to us. We must provide food 12 times a year, every 30 days. That's tough. Those of you who grocery shop know it's tough to feed a family. It's tough for us to purchase food and every 30 days know that possibly you're coming back for more. We would like to have folks have a referral from CETA. Gives us a little bit of the name and the address and your ages and your nationality, and CETA also has some financial guidelines that they go by. For one, that helps us because then we don't have to fill all that information out at the cupboard. We don't really have the staff or the space, maybe, or even the time to do that. I cannot require that. I can't require anything if an individual comes in and states they need groceries and food. We have what's called a TFAP form. They have to self-attest that they need it, and they have to provide me with the names and the birth dates of everyone in their household, but I cannot ask their financial status, nor their religion, any of those things. If they say they need it and want it, I'm going to give them food. So there are no requirements other than a person saying they need us. When the cupboard was started, food was provided 4 times a year. We are an emergency food source only, is how it was started. During the pandemic, it went to 6 times a year because people struggled during the pandemic. In October of 2022, the government states we go every 30 days, so 12 times a year. The increase has been extremely difficult for the cupboard. I became involved with the cupboard as a volunteer in 2021, so I've kind of seen this grow and how that has affected us, and it is really, really hard to provide the amount of food that we are told that has to be provided every 30 days. We have to keep track of, I report monthly how many people we see, how many people are involved with the food stamp program, how many people are between the ages of 0 and 18, 19 and 59, and above 60. As of October 31st, beginning January 1st of 2023, we have served 6,340 people in Wapello County. November and December are typically big months for us because of the holidays. Summer was really hard. I was surprised at our numbers in the summer. We served over 800 people a month, and that adds up pretty quickly. We are open Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 11 o'clock until 2 p.m. We are located at 101B North Court. The cupboard has had 3 different homes. It was at the First Methodist Church for several years until those churches were closed and consolidated. Then it went to the back of the Salvation Army building that was kind of on an alley. I think probably everyone, if you're from Ottumwa, knows that Salvation Army left Ottumwa for the 3rd time, a year and a half or so ago. And at that time, we became really insecure in having a spot to be. So when I said I would become the director in January of this year, the first task that the board gave me was to find us a new home. Again, one of those things that wasn't written down, find us a new place. So again, the grace of God led us to where we are at. I spent a lot of weeks dragging my husband along, driving as I would point to empty buildings or numbers, and I talked to several people in our community. This one came about, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place for us, and a some good hands-on cleaning and touching up of paint, and we were able to move in the last weekend of April. So it's a fun place to be. The volunteers have become friends. I didn't know any of these people before I started, and I have 3 people on each day, with me being the 4th one there. And these volunteers take their job so seriously. I was the administrator at Penn Place for the last 4 years of my employment, and not all people are really excited to go to work or come to work or stay at work. You know what? When you have volunteers that are over the age of 80, they are there irregardless of what else is going on. They're the most awesome people I have ever met. And the board of directors meets every other month. And again, I have found them to be awesome people who are so supportive of our mission and of what we do. What have I learned in the last year? This is an act of love. This is truly an act of love. It's hard work. My job description says I have to be able to lift 30 pounds. Some of those pallets bring food that's packaged a whole lot heavier than 30 pounds, but I've learned how to pick up and put away and handle those things. Sometimes it's hard. Not everyone who comes in for food is gushing thank yous or appreciation. Sometimes that's tough. That's tough when you're like, instead of being thankful, they're saying, well, I really wanted a can of Pringles today. You know, that's not something I'm going to have for you. So it's tough when you don't get the thank yous that you hope you're going to get. You hope that it's still appreciated. I was not aware. I don't live in the Ottumwa community. I've always worked in the Ottumwa community. I was not aware that we were such a community in need. That has just totally floored me, the need in this community. I have enjoyed meeting and working with the people in our community. I've met the lady who runs Blessings Soup Kitchen. I've met the person who does Whatsoever You Do. I've met several people in the United Way, met several pastors. I've met the managers of grocery stores that I work with. I've met the director of CEDA. Those are people that were just, there. I didn't really know what they did or what they do for your community, but they are all very passionate in what they do and in serving the Wapello County community. I want to close with a poem. So when we moved that last weekend of April, you have just these boxes that had been stored in the attic at the Salvation Army that just got put in the new spot, and the new spot doesn't have lots of nooks and crannies to hide things in. So I've been going through these. We don't need the grocery receipts from 20 years ago, but the minutes and the bylaws and those things I'm going through and sorting, and the pictures and the clippings. But I came across this poem. It was handwritten on a piece of notebook paper. I don't know its history. I don't know its author. But I want to share it with you. There are people who carry life's burdens, their own and some others besides. There are people who stand in their places and who stand there whatever betide. When the kingdom is calling for workers, or the city is crying for men, or some cause is seeking supporters, these people will answer just then. There are 2 kinds of people then, as you journey along life's track. The people who take your strength, and others who put it all back. And my hope is through my job, I'm putting strength back in, because we need that. So if any of you want to ever help with the cupboard, give me a jingle or come down and see me. We love to show off our place. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So thank you, Jim.
And the hours on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday are 11 to 2.
11 to 2.
And a great way to find out what's going on is to just show up.
Just show up.
And they'll let you be a guest and watch what's going on, and maybe even help carry out a bag or 2.
You bet.
But just come and be a part of it. Find out what's going on there. This is something that that we have a growing interest in, because this is serving a wider range of people than any of the other things that we've looked at in our community. So thank you so much,
Thank you
Virginia,
for
for coming
inviting
to
me.
share with us. All right, next is Bob Edmondson. Bob and Eileen started worshiping with us last spring, I think. And some of you don't even know who they are because they come and go. And they're gonna tell you about that and why that happens and all that. But I've gotten to know them, and I'm just really pleased that Bob is going to come and share what they're involved in.
Thank you. Yes, I am Bob Edmondson. My wife, Eileen, is sitting here. I'll introduce her a little more in a moment. We have just moved back to Iowa from Arizona, where we lived for the past 24 years. Moved here to be closer to Eileen's parents, who are in their late 80s. We've never lived close to them in our entire married life. It was about time. So we're delighted to be here. For 25 years, I have been a pastor, but for the past 15 years, Eileen and I have served with an organization called Global Training Network. Global Training Network has a very specific vision, and it has become our vision. It is to encourage and equip indigenous pastors and church planters and other Christian leaders throughout the majority world. Now, we call it the majority world. It's more commonly known as the third world, but we call it the majority world because, well, first, it's where the majority of people are, but more to the point for us, it is where the majority of Christians are. How many of you know the world has changed? At the turn of the 20th century, 75% of the world's Christians were here in the United States and in Northern Europe. But today, early in the 21st century, 75% of the world's Christians are non-Western. They live in the nations of Africa and of South America and of the Middle East and of Asia. And by the way, do you know that if the world were a village of 100 people, 60 of those people would be Asian, all right? And large communities of Christians throughout the majority of the world. And 80 to 90% of their leaders, their pastors, their missionaries, their teachers, they're serving without the benefit of any formal biblical, theological, or practical training whatsoever. What that means is that you have pastors who don't know how many books there are in the Bible. They don't know the Old Testament from the New Testament. They don't know Israel from the church. They think the Bible is not one overarching story, but just a random collection of teachings and poetry and stories. And they're ripe for false teaching, and they don't know how to refute the prosperity gospel, which is one of the biggest heresies out there today. But if you can impact the life of a leader like that with even basic training in theology or Bible study methods or pastoral skills, you revolutionize their life. You save them from falling prey to error, but they also do incredible things with the teachings that we bring. In fact, they do far more with them than we could ever do with those same teachings working as missionaries in their countries, because they know the culture, and what they do with what we bring them always amazes us. Now, Global Training Network was launched 20 years ago for this very purpose. It was launched by a pastor from Peoria, Arizona, named Paul Madsen, and he and his wife, Lisa, were going to work in northern India, and they thought that would be the extent of the ministry of GTN. But another pastor came along and wanted to join them, and then another, and though they have never recruited anybody, today Global Training Network has 180 trainers, and we're working in 80 different countries. They don't recruit, they do screen. We get mostly veteran pastors, and we try to get people that haven't blown up their churches, things like that. We go all over the place, and we do all kinds of things, and what happens as a result of it, we are thrilled with. Now, I need to tell you there's a biblical basis for this. It's not just that we like it. It is that it is a biblical thing to do. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2, it's Paul speaking to his young protege Timothy, and he says, hey, the things that you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, those same things you commit to other faithful leaders who will be qualified to teach still others. Really, there's a lot in this verse. 4 generations of leaders starting with Paul and then Timothy and his cohorts, the people they would teach and the people those folks would teach. If you run the numbers on this and grant that every trained leader in his entire ministry life only trains 10 others, by the time you get to the end of this verse, there are 1,001 trained leaders. Now, we all know that illustrations like this never work out perfectly because life is sloppy and people are imperfect and not everybody multiplies like they should. But here's what I know. This principle of multiplication is biblical and it does work. You are actually proof of it because the Great Commission is a commission to multiply disciples. And here we are sitting in a room halfway around the world from Jerusalem where this whole thing started with just 120 disciples praying as the church was launched. Today, there are millions of churches, perhaps hundreds of millions of believers all over the world because the principle of multiplying works. And it works in training leaders as well, and we have seen that in our own experience. Just to give you an idea, Rwanda, East Africa, it's one small country where we work. It's perhaps most famous for the 1994 genocide that occurred there. They've made great strides since then. We spent October in Rwanda. We work with 4 different groups there, and a total of 92 students, mostly pastors. And our students write these 6-month plans at the end of their courses. It's their own application plan. It's their own way of saying, here's what I plan to do in the next 6 months with the material I have learned. And then when we return 6 months later, they report on those plans, and we get the outcomes and some metric as to what they're doing with our training. So we know that between May and October, our students impacted more than 9,000 lives with the material that we brought. We know that because they teach it in their churches, and each one of them on average influences around 100 people. So some parts of this have touched at least 9,000 people. But more specifically, they led 562 people to Christ during that time period. And they baptized 460 of them, with more in training to be baptized now. And they have planted 2 churches, as well as launched 18 house churches and Bible studies, which are intended to become churches eventually. And very near to our heart, they have trained 477 additional leaders using our material. That is, training them for specific ministry roles using our materials. So one couple, we work with 92 people, and in 6 months' time, the number who've received that course turns to 575 in total. It multiplies, it works. And we were overjoyed to graduate 19 students in October from our Timothy program. They've taken all of those courses, and they are now certified as advanced trainers in their own right. So this is a really thrilling work. Now, Rwanda is just one of the countries where we work. We also work in Nepal, where I'll be going there Thursday, actually, this week for a couple of weeks, and then also the Philippines, where we'll be going in January, and an interesting area of the world, the northern region of Iraq, an area known as Kurdistan, where we also work. I'll be going there later this year. And this picture that you're looking at is from Kurdistan. And I want to tell you about, let's go back to that. Yeah, okay, we're still there. The lady that you see on the right, her name is Bayan. She is one of our students, and I have to tell you what she did in just this last year. She set in her 6-month plan, she set a goal of leading, I think the number was 15 people to Christ, and she did it. All right? She has a gift of evangelism. One of the people that she led to faith in Christ was a young Muslim widow. We will call her Priscilla. That's not her real name. She was interned in a refugee camp near Sulemania, where we teach. And Bayan frankly thought she would never respond to the gospel because she was a committed and trained Muslim, and she seemed fairly radical. But she shared the gospel anyway, and to her amazement, Priscilla did respond, and she became as ardent a follower of Jesus as she had been of Allah. And so Bayan was working with her and teaching her the basics of the Christian life in a weekly discipleship meeting. And she was just eating it up, growing by leaps and bounds, until a crisis occurred. The leaders of the refugee camp came to Priscilla and told her, "You must leave the refugee camp. We are expelling you." The reason for this was that when she came to the camp, she lied to them. She told them that her husband had died of cancer, when in fact her husband died on a battlefield. He was an ISIS fighter. And Priscilla had received training in the same camps that he had, so the refugee camp wanted nothing to do with anyone associated with ISIS, and they made her leave. And in fact, she was deported from Kurdistan entirely and had to return to her home village near Baghdad. Bayan was very worried about her because in this village where she lived, well, the place is just lousy with ISIS. It's still filled with ISIS fighters. They're defeated, but they're still there. They were literally her neighbors. And so she thought, this is a baby Christian going into a neighborhood filled with ISIS. What is going to become of her? And she prayed like crazy, and then she started getting phone texts from Priscilla. And the phone texts contained pictures of Priscilla baptizing people that she has been leading to Christ. She is now starting a church there, if you can believe that, right under the noses of ISIS. The cause of Christ is triumphant. And Bayan, after telling us this story, she told me, "You know, the training that you bring us means so much because it helps us to make strong disciples who can stand for Jesus when things are hard." And I tell you, these people are my heroes. They stand for Jesus in the face of persecution and even the threat of death. And I'll tell you what, anything that I can do to bring them the tools that they desperately need to carry on ministry, I want to do as long as I can. My son asked me some time ago, "Dad, are you going to retire anytime soon?" I said, "Nope." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Because if I retired, this is what I would want to do in retirement." Okay? This is a wonderful ministry that God is in. I feel that this is God's ministry, and I just get to somehow be part of it. We're thrilled with it. You know, if you'd like to know more about this, this is my lovely and long-suffering wife, Eileen. She has the clipboard. We would love to send you our newsletter, either in your mailbox or your inbox, if you'd like to know more about our ministry and keep up with it. I include news about where we are and what we're doing, and I'll also, if you give us our email address, update you when we're in the field. And I like to include in that newsletter, a little encouraging pastoral article every month, because I'm still basically a pastor at heart. I just don't have to go to committee meetings anymore. If you can't get through the crowds thronging around my lovely, long-suffering wife, you can always shoot me an email, bobby@gtn.org. Very simple. And I just thank you for your time this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. I've told him several times, and his wife Eileen, that I can really relate to them because for 10 years, I would show up here for a week or maybe 2 Sundays in a row, and then I would be on the road for months on end. And I did that for 10 years before I became the pastor here. So I can really relate to the coming and going. And most of the time I get it wrong when they say they're going someplace. My first assumption is together. And then they say, "No, only Bob is going on this trip." And then they said they were going to Rwanda, and I said, "Oh, Bob, no, we're both going on this one." And so most of the time I get it wrong, but we certainly love having you as a part of our Northgate family. So next is Sarah. Sarah Lindley has been a part of our fellowship for a long time. Her husband, Ken, serves as one of our elders, but Sarah has been heavily involved at the Heartland Pregnancy Center here in town. something that has been pretty close to Northgate Church from its inception. I think we've had volunteers since the day it opened. There have been volunteers that have been from Northgate Church. So Sarah's going to share a little bit about Heartland Pregnancy Center, and then we'll pray for that, and we'll be done.
Good morning. I'm going to try to speak loudly enough that you can hear me. I spoke at the Heartland Pregnancy Center banquet earlier this month, and when I was on my last bullet point, someone in the back said, "We can't hear you at all. You think your mic is turned off." So can you hear me back there? Okay, good. I'm pretty passionate about what I'm going to speak to you about. I have been involved with Heartland Pregnancy Center for, well, I think since 2006, and I believe in what they do. And like the other two ministries, organizations that have already been represented here today, I think at the core of all of this is to follow Jesus' leading when he taught us to love God and love other people. We just approach it in different manners. Heartland Pregnancy Center is a life-affirming nonprofit organization that was founded over 30 years ago here in Ottumwa with the mission of providing support and resources related to pregnancy for women, men, and families. All of our services are confidential and are at no cost to the client. No insurance is required nor accepted, and we don't have income guidelines. We are completely funded through the donations of individuals, churches, and organizations. There is no typical client at Heartland Pregnancy Center. I personally have worked with clients as young as 13 years old and women who are in their 40s. They may be single or married. They may have any level of family support. They may be well-educated, in college, have a degree, or none of the above. They may be employed or not. In other words, we serve people in all types of situations. We have served many native Ottumwans, folks from the surrounding counties, people who are new to our community, and people who are new to the United States. Some folks need a translator. We have gladly assisted foster parents and adoptive parents. Some of our clients are in drug rehab and trying to improve their parenting skills. Our clients may be Christians or Wiccan or Hindu. They may be atheists. Many are likely agnostic. The nuns, the duns, and the unduns. So what is it exactly that we do? The statistics that I have are very fresh. They were gleaned right before our banquet, which was earlier this month. So in the year preceding that, we had 799 clients and 1,597 people through the door. So the difference between that is a client visit is, you know, somebody comes in and receives one of our services or more than one. But they may not come just as an individual. Most of them don't. Many come with their partner, their husband, their children in tow, and so forth. So we started keeping stats on people through the door just because we kind of wanted to know how busy we really were, and we are. We had 154 men visits. We did 52 free pregnancy tests, which that stat surprised me a little bit. I would have guessed it higher than that. I've done as many as 3 in one day. But at any rate, that's what the numbers showed. Needing a pregnancy test or obtaining one has changed a lot since the early 90s. Now you can get them at Walmart or the Dollar Tree or wherever. So why do people come to us for pregnancy tests? I think there's more than one reason. Some clients have come to me and told me they did 3 at home and they were all positive. I can pretty much guess what ours is going to come out like. They're all based on the same science. Others may have suspected for months that they're pregnant and haven't done one. I think at the heart of this is people sometimes just need to talk this out, to have someone to listen to them, to express their feelings, to seek information, to know what to do next. I had a client last week who was really very new to the United States, and she said, I just don't know what I'm supposed to do next. So we talk about the resources in the community and taking care of herself and all those kinds of things. We do give pregnancy option information. We talk about fetal development. We talk about the resources that they can receive in the community and so forth. A big part of our ministry is parenting classes. We use a curriculum called Earn While You Learn. This is an incentive program that covers a wide variety of topics, starting with pregnancy and how to take care of yourself, anticipating how to take care of your baby, and onward. I mean, it's as varied as simple things like nutrition and safety and illnesses to potty training and discipline and so forth. There's well more than 100. Sometime I need to count how many classes we have. These classes are individualized. They're not in a classroom or a group. The individual, the family, we pick out something that's appropriate to them for that day, and they watch a video very oftentimes, and then we talk about the information in the video. From that, they receive mommy money or daddy bucks or both. These are tokens. Basically, it's a point system, and they can use the points to obtain the things that they need. Included in that material help are diapers, and we thank Northgate for their massive diaper drives that they have done for us. In that 1 year period, this past year, we gave out over 10,000 diapers because every little tushy needs a dry diaper, right? We also give material help to those that are not taking classes, that are just in a crisis or an urgent need situation, and there's a lot of that. The financial climate right now is such that I'm sure, as most of you know, you're experiencing at the food bank, that a lot of people just need help. Our clients can even earn a car seat. You can't leave a hospital these days, or you sure shouldn't, without a safe car seat for the baby to ride in. And a lot of other things, bigger things. If they take the classes, they will earn enough points to purchase all of that type of thing. A new ministry that we have just started this year is providing ultrasounds. Like I said, I've been there since around 2006, and through all those years, we talked about ultrasound. And it always seemed like there was something in the way. The timing wasn't right. We didn't have enough space or money or whatever. This past year, a lot of doors flung open. It's been very apparent that the Lord wanted us to start doing ultrasounds at Heartland Pregnancy Center. Some space on the floor of the Harvester building where we're located became available, and our board chose to kind of proactively start renting that suite. We became aware that there was an organization that was willing to buy the machine, but that's just the beginning of the cost. Training is not cheap, and there's several other costs associated with doing ultrasounds. The money just came in for all of it, and we are just praising the Lord for that. The machine arrived in June. Becky Dalrymple, our director, myself, and Melissa Gingrich, who is our medical director. She's an experienced OBGYN nurse practitioner. The three of us went to California to learn the ins and outs of running the machine, and in Becky's case, the administrative responsibilities that go with that. And then our trainer came here in August, and we started doing them here in Ottumwa. We have done 15, and that's August, September, October, and then we're continuing to do them, of course. So the main thing I would like you all to know is just what the services are that we provide, and to send folks our way if they need something that we have, some service that we provide. We are there to help whoever needs it. Regarding the ultrasounds, I just want to say one thing. There is something that happens. This has been my brief experience. When a woman sees that image, sees that heartbeat, and a goal of ours is just to, one of the things our trainer talked about is to launch them well. So when they start in with the pregnancy, when they become aware of it, that we can help them really embrace that, give them vitamins, steer them toward the doctor's office, give them the education that they need, provide material assistance as they need, and so forth. We just want to launch them well. We are located on the corner of 2nd and Market in downtown Ottumwa. It's a 6-story building. There aren't very many of those in Ottumwa. We have a web page that goes through all of our hours of service and our phone number. We are open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday are in the afternoons, noon to 5, and Wednesday is 9 to 5. We have a hotline that there's a cell phone that somebody answers 24/7. If by chance it's not answered, a message can be left and we'll get back to you. We want to be accessible. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I should say that in February, we will start our annual diaper drive, and you heard that they need about 10,000 diapers, so we will be as generous as we possibly can. Thank you so much for being here and for learning how you can be involved in these various ministries. I want to remind you that this is who we are as a church. We are a missions church. In our denominational name, the Christian Missionary Alliance, it is the central focus. And so we're just reminding you of what our DNA is and who we are as a fellowship that we call Northgate Church. So would you stand with me? Let's pray. Next week, we start our new series, Name Above All Names, and I encourage you to be a part of that. Heavenly Father, thank you for your presence. Thank you for the challenge of the Lord's Cupboard, of the Global Teaching Network, and of Heartland Pregnancy Center. I pray that each of us would be challenged to find out how we can be your hands and your feet. How not only do we have Bible studies, but that we have Bible doings. And we ask that you'd make us a church that is known for what we do, not just what we say. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Have a good week.